Welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio episode. Once again, we have three different bands from the underground from three various parts of the world, and these are all through Godz of War Productions label from Poland. So thank you to the label for sending these interesting death metal albums for review. First, I'll introduce them quickly in alphabetical order, and then I will unbox them and show you a little bit of band Metal Archive site for the background. Or should we just go unboxing it right away? Let's do this in alphabetical order, and then we'll get worst to best. Here are first Primitive Warfare from United States. South Carolina is the state, and this is the debut album by the band. It hasn't been out too long already, and as you can see, this style is actually very black metallic. The Extinction Protocol is the name of the album, and it's two guys. War is the theme here, and you can probably guess what's going on here. Not much to see in the inlay. This is war metal, maybe with the focus more on the death metal side of things, but nonetheless. Then from Sweden comes Putrified with Death, Darkness, Decay. Nice looking digipack. And once again, I would make the claim this looks more like a black metal release as such, with the inverted crosses and just the general layout, than your typical death metal one. But it is what it is, and sometimes things can be a little bit misleading. Nice looking digipack nonetheless. And this is also, if I remember correctly, debut album. Then Upon the Altar from Poland. And curious enough, Metal Archives lists this one as blackened death metal. Now people, please remind me, what's the difference between blackened death metal and death black or black death metal? Because honestly, I think it's just a gimmick game and there is no difference, but you can of course prove me wrong, prove me otherwise if you think there is indeed a difference. Some would say, yeah, blackened death metal, it's only 25% black metal, when black death metal or death black is more like 50-50. But like I said, I would call it just bullshit and just a different way to write down the same thing. I mean, it's more like a... I wouldn't even call the difference between pony and horse, because there's a difference. But it's more like... how to put it? This is not growling, this is grunting. Yeah, sure. Shrieking, not screaming. Alright, time for worst to best according to my own opinion. Feel free to disagree. First we'll head to Upon the Altar from Poland. This is the only one with two albums in this review one. Started in 2019, released the first album a couple of years later, and another 3 years later, Descendants of Evil. Features three guys according to Metal Archives. I'm assuming it's correct enough for this video anyway. This is the badass looking picture. I gotta say, I like the style with these guys, what they're doing in terms of that. But when it comes to the music, I'm gonna be honest here, this could be a lot better. So this is some 36 minutes almost type of blackened death metal. Let's just call it black death metal for the sake of it. And this is, well, much like down-tuned kitters, very heavy, not that fast all the time, but there are faster parts, and yes, including some of the blackened elements in the music. Now I'm gonna put it right. A lot of these riffs are quite simplistic, quite punky in a way, and very much like, let's go back to basics. Let's go to the default settings, whatever you had in late 80s, early 90s, when things were shaping up. And while there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that, well, there are a lot of challengers, unless you're going to be one of those early bird veterans, pioneers if you will, who are going to like make the rules how death metal is supposed to sound and all. Well, I'm going to say you're a little bit late to the game, because in fact what this sounds like in versus a lot of competition out there, it seems like maybe this band is more like 30 years late. Of course, now some people are going to say, you know, a certain good music never gets old, and yes, that's of course true. I'm saying that in this particular field or genre or subgenre of music, there are thousands of these albums. Thousands. And it's gonna be really, really hard to stand out with the kind of a basic riffs, the kind of a basic production. And it doesn't help if you have downtuned guitars when the riffs are not that good. Fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with the given style, but when it comes to details, so to say, this band actually deserves and needs better sound, more punch, more kick, more being stronger in general. And the vocals, same thing applies here. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that so easily goes into the background. While there is nothing wrong with that as such, I am just looking more catchiness, memorability and all that stuff. To me, this is one of those kind of black and death metal albums that is so easy to forget. I'm sorry to say it, but it is how I feel about it. Like, the potential is right there, but to separate really from the shaft, unfortunately, not really happening there. Then we go to United States with Primitive Warfare, which is very, very much about aggression and, you know, being violent, being warlike. Basically, I mean, I like the idea that these guys are doing very, very violent music, that they're, you know, like spending bullets after bullets, ready to kill all the enemies out there, and you're like, yes. But after a while, after the first spin, you're like, that's not really gonna change anything. I mean, if you're looking for your next dose of not there yet, kind of a conquer, revenge, what have you, or like the similar artist tab seems to mention, Antichrist Siege Machine as well. I mean, like, when you're gonna do that, this is gonna pale in comparison. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe if you're a quick dose of some violent black death kind of a thing with the themes of war, death, Antichrist, like it's mentioned here, maybe you're just like, okay, this is what you need. The fast tempo, the aggression. But let's be honest about it. Besides the tempo and certain level of heaviness, nothing really here sticks. Much like Upon the Altar, this is not one of those albums or bands that, you know, is like, wow, they really have some cool riffs. Just listen to that 1 minute 30 seconds on the second track and you will find something very, very memorable. This is not when you start comparing these to, say, bands like to Nile or Origin or Morbid Angel or Cannibal Corpse and say like, hey, they are really making difference with those given songs. You could just put this as a one song on the 31 minutes of an album and like get it on with it. For those of aggression and all, sure. But then again, you keep asking yourself, why wouldn't I just stick to Antichrist Siege Machine or Revenge for that matter? I don't know. But for those who are desperate to get more of war metal, Primitive Warfare is out there for you. So it's not a bad one. It's just a little bit paling in comparison kind of a thing. And then finally we go with Putrified. Clearly enough, this band name wasn't even used before 2010, which I find kind of fascinating, given that everything here seems reeking like it was already happening in the late 80s, or at least very, very much by the mid-90s. Anyway, here it is, 2010 onwards, the band has been there doing first demos and then EPs. I don't know what took them so long to release album 14 years after making. Well, Dead Darkness Decay is here to do exactly what was promised. The kind of you guessed it all right, old school death metal. And here if you go for a similar artist, nothing has been mentioned. I mean, it's not like this really sounds original as such, but maybe it hasn't yet gotten the attention and people like finding out. One of the reasons is this is not gonna stand out. I mean, these are the very basic run 2-mill default setting death metal riffs, but without the HM2 pedal setting. So this actually separates them for a lot of Swedish death metal band, thinking of, you know, Entomb, Grave, Dismember, I don't know, Grotesque, Nihilism, whatever you have there. Vomitory. But not to say this is bad, but it's more like this is the very typical opening album. I mean, you get the first ideas, you put them on the album and see how it flies, and then you start cranking up the things like, okay, maybe we should add more guitar leads or put a little bit more melodics right there. Maybe we should do this and that. This is the kind of a basic standard setting, as if you're looking for a carton or bottle of milk and you're gonna, I just want milk. No gimmicks, no bullshit, no flavors, whatever, no colors, obviously. I want just the bottle or box of white, basic standard milk. Can have a little bit fat, not too much, thank you. half skimmed if you will. So this is what Putrified has to offer. Or a lager beer. Maybe milk comparison metaphor is just too much for death metal heads. So if you're looking for your basic lager, this is gonna do it. It's not gonna be the more than just a thirst quencher. It's not gonna change your, like, wow, these hops are very, very interesting, or this sour take, or whatever. No, forget all about that bullshit. If it's hipster stuff, you're not gonna, if you're into hipster stuff, you're not gonna like this one. Then again, if you're anti-hipster and want to go back to the basics, nothing extra groovy, nothing too memorable, but just the kind of a basic stuff, this is what you go for. Anyway, this is Godz of War Productions Trio here on Underground Trio. Feel free to like all of them or none of them. Feel free to disagree me. That's part of the charm, really. And of course, links are provided in the description box so you can start listening right away and not listen to my bullshit, my meaningless opinions and whatever. This is just to give you information what there is out here through Godz of War Productions this spring, summer and whatnot. Now off you go, check out the bands if you will. If not, well, off you go anyway. See you with more reviews coming away. Take care, bye.